So the OpenAI API, if you look at that, it has a lot of different capabilities. And so one of the most familiar with that we are very used to by now is the chat completions part of the API, which is basically the ChatGPT type question and answering where you pass some text as a prompt, and then you get text as an output. Since November 6, 2023, when the latest version of the API was released, now you can also have JSON output, which is extremely important because it allows you to basically take the output of the model and just put it right into your database, or it's basically parsed for you. So this is a very useful thing that developers had requested for a really long time. Then we have the DALL-E part of the API, which is about image generation and editing. So you can, this is a text to image model where you can pass a prompt and then you receive an image as a result. You can also do in painting and out painting. So basically this is where you take a portion of the image and you say, generate in this portion of the image where you can basically edit images or enlarge images and things like that. We will do examples about that a little bit later. Then you have the vision part, which I think is extremely helpful for all kinds of applications. This is image to text and video to text. So basically, you have an image, you pass it to the model, and you say, explain what is in the image. So this kind of thing is extremely important. We're going to do several examples of this. But because videos are basically a collection of images, you can do the same with videos and say what is in this video. You can create a caption or a narration for a video. So then we have the text-to-speech part of the API, which is basically, as the name of the model says, you pass it text, and then it outputs audio. And this is very natural sounding audio, which is very, very interesting. And again, many applications can be built just with that. But if you put that in combination with Whisper, which is audio to text, so basically taking an audio file, transcribing what the audio says into text, or directly translated, and then passing it to the text-to-speech model to get the audio in English, for example, the synergy between these two models is very, very good. And then there's a lot of applications that you can build with this too. Finally, what it was also very impressive in November 6th was the Assistance API, which basically, if you had worked with LangChain before and you tried to build a bot or some kind of assistant yourself or agent, then you would realize how important it is to have the Assistance API, because it allows you to seamlessly keep memory of the conversations and create threads. And the cool thing is that it allows you for retrieval, which is basically you can pass it a file and it will incorporate it into the model responses and processing. It has function calling, and the code interpreter as well basically is going to use functions that you have given instructions for and write code to help you with performing some tasks. So we're going to try to go through all of these things today if we have time. So hopefully you can stay till the end so that you can learn about all of these things. So in today's, this is a summary of what we will do today. We will do a simple text generation the way that you would do it in ChatGPT, just very simple, just to show you how the API works. We're going to use a text classification example where we're going to have JSON output to show you how that works. We're going to generate images, and we are going to use vision to say what is in this photo, what is in this video. We're going to generate image, and we're going to edit images as well. And we're going to create masks and do that with DALL-E. Regarding audio, we're going to do text-to-speech. So we are going to listen to this natural sounding voice. And we're going to use Whisper as well to transcribe audio files from German directly to text, and then pass them back to the TTS API so that we can hear the German audio in English. And finally, we will take a quick look at the Assistance API. We're going to use retrieval, function calling, and code interpreter. Hopefully everything works. And this is really useful even at a basic level because it allows you to basically summarize and chat with really complex documents. You can also analyze and make plots and things like that. If you want to get started with the API, all you have to do basically is create an account with OpenAI and get your secret key. Then put that key in your environment and install the OpenAI Python package if you're doing this in Python. Obviously, I don't work for OpenAI, so I'm not advertising anything. Once you get the OpenAI key, you will get some credit, but you do need to pay a little bit to use the API. You can see the cost on the website. And again, I'm not trying to advertise for them. I'm just super impressed about what the API can do. So I'm just showing you out of excitement. So let's begin with text generation, the way that you would use ChatGPT. And let's just do this on PyCharm. So basically, we're going to go back and forth between the slides and the code. If you are a programmer, what I think you would appreciate is the fact that I've used this model, and I think there's 35 lines of code here, but most of the lines are actually empty space. I mean, look at the amount of code that it takes to do this is very little. And if you're not a programmer, this is something that you can take away from this that is extremely simple to do and to learn. So I'm going to start with a simple question to the API, the way that you would use ChatGPT for, like, my question is going to be, my prompt is going to be, you know everything about Star Wars, you always make sweet jokes at the end of your response, make sure to tell us until when you have been trained. And so what I'm doing is set up the system prompt. So if we take a look at the API call, we have the client, which is where you store your secret key. Basically, if you look at what is inside this client, you would see that I'm passing indirectly this API key, which is stored in my environment. We're going to use the GPT-4 model released in November 6th last year. And we're going to have two roles. We're going to have the role of the system, which is basically setting the behavior and the personality of the answer. And we're going to have the user, which is going to be the person asking questions to our model, right? So let me run this in the meantime, because sometimes it could take a little long. So I'm going to explain the rest of the things in the meantime. We're also going to set the temperature to 0 to avoid hallucinations. This is how we keep the answers sort of similar to each other every time that we run this, as well with the seed. And now you're also able to get the response in JSON format. And we will see that in the next example, not in this one, but basically I just put this here so that you can see it. Don't worry about copying any of the code or taking screenshots, because I'm going to give you the link to the GitHub repository. You can download this if you want to play with it by yourself. So then what we need to pass to this call is basically the system prompt and the user prompt. My system prompt is saying something like what I said before: you know everything about Star Wars, you always make jokes. So I'm setting sort of the personality of how the model should respond. And then I'm saying, please make sure to tell us until when you have been trained, because these models are not trained until yesterday, they have been trained until last year. And the user prompt is going to be list all the Star Wars movies. Okay, this is something that you would do with ChatGPT. The response is here. So it says, you know, we have the original trilogy, we have the prequel, sequel, anthology, etc. It also says, it also gives me a nice joke, and it tells you that my knowledge is that I've been trained until April, it doesn't say April, no, but it's been trained until April 2023. So if there's a new movie that came out since then, it's not going to be mentioned here. You can see that there is a nice structure to this. There's a trilogy name, there's the episode name, and then there's the year of release, which you can really easily JSONify. And put into your database if you wanted to. So that's how it works. And with that, I want to turn into an example that is a little bit more interesting. So when I was working in the marketing department at Credit Suisse, I had this task of sorting through a large amount of articles that we had published on the Credit Suisse website. And these articles were written according to a certain topics, but we didn't know what the topics were. So our job as data scientists was to find out what the topic of the article was. And these were not random. It was basically a set of topics such as sustainability, financial expertise, mortgages, pension plan, wealth, innovation, etc. So what we did was to take this article. So this is what an article looks like on the website of Credit Suisse. And we took the title, we had the abstract, and we had the text of the article, we had the publication date and stuff like that. And what we wanted to do was another application that was a lot more complicated, but for this application, we needed to have the topic of the article. So basically the topic in itself was something small for a bigger project. So in order to get the topic of the article back in the day, we had to create a training set with all our articles, as well as other articles from public repositories. We had to create a small sort of NLP training for this in the sense that we had to create some features, embeddings and so forth, and store these features and then pass them onto a model, for example, a random forest classifier that would create a classifier model that would allow us to get a prediction every time that we had a new article. We would calculate the same features, ask the model what the topic of this new article was, and then we would get a response. And this kind of model, was not so reliable. It was 87% accurate, but it was decaying over time. So you had to sort of babysit the model, retrain. And this was just one feature on a larger model. So, babysitting a small model like this, it was kind of annoying. What you can do now with LLMs is with 99% accuracy, because these models are so large, you can basically take your text and engineer your prompt in a way that it will just tell you the article topic. So you can say, what is this article about? And this will save you all this time. So this is a nice little application. So in this case, what I wanted to have was, okay, I have my article ID, I have my article title, I have my article text. So the question is, what's the topic? And the topic is here. But since we're using LLMs and they can tell me the topic and other things, why not ask, what is the sentiment? What is the summary of the article? And also give me some tags to help with my SEO for the website. So there's a lot more features that I can actually get so quickly just by asking the model. So let me show you how that works. So in this case, we are going to take an article from the website just directly. And this article is actually about sports. It's a pretty sad article because there was one team that was put in a goal, but it was not recognized, and it was basically kind of a mess. So there was kind of a fight, and it's not a very positive article, just to put it that way. This is actually yeah, so not even necessarily a Credit Suisse article, but it's an article text that I took just to show you as an example. So in this case, I engineered the prompt in the following way, and I'm gonna again run it in the meantime so that in case it's delayed. The prompt is, you are a text classifier. So I'm setting the system prompt. And your response should have 4 elements, including the topic of the article, a summary of the article, a set of tags suitable to the article, and the sentiment of the article, because why not? Basically, we can ask all the data that we need. But the topic can be only sports, financial expertise, mortgages, etc. It cannot be just some random thing. If you don't know what the topic of the article is, just say unknown. And then I can set the summary to be 200 words. I can also ask for 3 or more tags. And I can ask about the sentiment of the article. And what is important, if I want to put this directly into my database, is that I want the resulting object to be a JSON format, and I want it in this particular structure. I want article topic to be a string, summary to be a string, tags I want to list, and article sentiment is going to be a string. this list is still going to be a string, but you can parse it somehow.